Hi, my name is Yasser Al-Mashad. I'm a security specialist in F5 Networks. In today's video, I'm going to show you the F5 integration with Google Container Engine. So in this integration, F5 will be sitting in front of the Google Container Cluster, and it will provide load balancing services, application security services to the containers that's running inside this cluster. It will also going to automate this process. So when the container started to spin or to run inside the cluster, the F5 will automatically create the objects on the big IP. So the components of this solution will be the big IP itself that will be sitting outside the cluster, and there will be a F5 controller, also known as the container connector, sitting inside the cluster. The container connector job is that it will detect when there is a new container running in the cluster, and then it will send to the F5 REST API instructions to create the necessary objects like virtual servers, pools, etc., for to manage this application. The F5 will be looking at the number of the nodes in the cluster. For example, here we have two nodes, so it will create a pool that have these two nodes in the pool as a pool members, and will send the traffic to. There is a component called kubeproxy that will be responsible to distribute the traffic inside the nodes. So with that, let's jump to the demo. This is the dashboard of Google Cloud Platform. There are two components of this solution. The first component will be the F5, and the second will be, of course, the container engine. I have already installed both of them, but I'm going to show you quickly, briefly, how you can do it on your own. So for the F5, you can go to the marketplace from the left top menu, and you can search for the F5. It will show you a few images. You can choose based on the licensing, on the performance. Once you do that, you can basically click on the launch on compute engine. This is where the Google deployment manager going to automate or simplify the deployments of the F5 inside the compute engine. If I click on that, as you can see, you can just select the zone and specify the resources. This is the minimum of the VM, and you need to allow the SSH and management traffic. This will be a single network interface deployment. So both management and services on the F5 will share the same IP address. That's why we're going to use this port for the management. Okay. As you can see, I have already passed the deployment, and you can see the Google Deployment Manager. It have the like Python script here that automate this deployment inside the compute engine. Okay, so let me go to the compute engine now, where I have my F5 running, and this is the F5 image. It's running, started. It have internal IP, external IP. If I go to my external IP, I can see this is the F5, and to specify the management port. And this is the management port, and it will log me in using my previous cached session. So this is a brand new big IP. There is nothing configured yet on this. I just maybe want to quickly show you the self IP. I should have only a single interface that used for both management and the services. There is no any services running yet here in the F5. Cool. The next object is the container engine. So we'll go here. On the compute also, you can go to the Kubernetes engine. And as you can see, I have a cluster already created. You can create your own cluster. It's also simple process. I did it in advance to save time because the cluster will consist of nodes that will be running inside also compute engine. And this is a wizard to create the cluster. Give it a name, zone the region, number of the nodes inside this cluster, and the resources that will be allocated to each one of these nodes. Okay, as you can see, I have a cluster that have two nodes. The total cores and total memory of the all nodes combined is this 2 vCPU and 7.5 gig. That means that every node have one vCPU. Can click on my cluster, and I can see the number of nodes inside each one of these cluster. Next, the workload, which is the containers in this cluster. I do not have anything yet inside this cluster. Can deploy it from here. I'm going to show it to you in the command line. There is no services as well. So let's connect to the my cluster. I'm going to do the connect I can take this command line and put it in my SDK, or I can just run inside Cloud Shell directly. So it will take this command. It will first create a shell, a Cloud Shell, and it will execute this command. And this will allow me to connect to my Kubernetes cluster. Okay. The first step, we need to deploy the container connector. I have done this already in advance. We can verify this quickly. First, increase the resolution here. So we can verify this quickly by type kubectl command, get deployment namespace kube system. So let's get the current deployment there. We put this up a little. So we can see that the Kubernetes Big IP controller deployment is already done. It's already deployed. So we are good. Now let's go and try to deploy my application. So I'll go to my application folder. It's called my front end. So this is my application. I have a YAML file that includes the instruction for my application. So if I try to see the syntax of this file, it's a very simple file. I just call my application my front end. This is the Docker image that will be downloaded from the Docker Hub for this application. And this will be the port that will use and that this application will listen on. So nothing much. Now let me deploy this application and see if the container connector going to automate the process on the F5 as well. So I'll say kubectl create from the file my front end deployment. Enter. I'm going to also deploy my service, which basically exposing this deployment to be managed from external outside the cluster. So I'll also do that. And let's see. So now back to my F5. We click on the virtual servers again, and I can see now my application came here. I can access this application by going to this IP, the same IP again. Just click on this, and I can see my application now is running. Okay, so basically, as soon as I deployed my application in the cluster, the container connector connected to F5 over REST API and created the objects as well. You can see now I have workloads here, and I have services already created, and I can scale up and down this deployed application. For example, I can go to it. It's shown now it's deployed on one pod. I can scale this to maybe, let's say, 3 pods. Scale that. Scale it to 2. Okay. Oh, it worked already, but let me refresh. So now it have 2. I can scale it also to more or less, and that will still be able to load balanced on the F5 normally. Okay. And if I deleted the whole thing, so if I go to this workload again, and let's say I want to delete my application, let me delete it, and let me go to the service and also delete the service. So now I have no workload, no service again. We'll go to F5 or refresh the virtual servers, and it should be also gone. So everything is automated here, and this is the advantage of this F5 container connector. So with that, thank you for watching.